Hello everyone, this is part 14 of the video series America Quadruple 7 Eunuchs, Esther, Mordecai, Purim. What is he saying to you? Since this is the time of Purim, February 25th to 26th, corresponding to the 13th of Adar, the 12th month in Hebrew calendar, and God's children now going through a tough time, I decided to take a day off and read the book of Esther again. Look at the history of Esther. Mordecai and his orphaned cousin Hadassah, also called Esther, were Jews and were taken as exiles to Babylon during the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, the Babylonian king, which was later taken over by the kings of Persia and Media. The book speaks about King Artaxerxes, who was ruling over the 127 provinces of the Persian Empire, extending from Kush or Ethiopia to India, and his capital was Susa. This is the only place in the Bible where India is mentioned. In the 3rd year of his reign, the king displayed the wealth and splendor of his kingdom before the military leaders, princes, and nobles of the 127 provinces for 6 months. He then gave a banquet lasting 7 days for the people of the citadel of Susa, from the poor to the rich, for them to see the glory of his kingdom. Wine was served to all in gold goblets with no restrictions. 7 eunuchs and 7 nobles. On the 7th day, when he was high on wine, the king commanded his 7 eunuchs, Mehuman, Biztha, Harbona, Bigtha, Abagtha, Sedar, and Carcas, to bring in Queen Vashti, who was very beautiful for the people and officials to see. But she refused to come. The king was very angry and was advised by his 7 nobles, Karshena, Shadda, Admada, Tarshish, Meres, Marsina, and Memucan, to remove Queen Vashti from her position and appoint someone else in her place so that the women will not disrespect their husbands. The king's personal attendants proposed that a search be made for beautiful young virgins throughout the kingdom to be brought to the harem, placed under the care of the king's eunuch Hegai, who was in charge of the women, and to give them 12 months of beauty treatments before taken to the king. When the king's order was made, Esther, who was very beautiful, was also taken to the king's harem. She won the favor of Hegai the eunuch. Hegai immediately provided her with beauty treatments and special food. He assigned to her 7 female attendants and moved her into the best place in the harem. When the turn came to meet the king, the women could ask for anything she wanted to take with her from the harem to the king's palace. When the turn came for Esther, she asked for nothing other than what Hegai suggested. I'd like to know what it was, because Hegai must have revealed some secret there as he was serving the king. Intriguing quadruple 7. This is the first time I noticed this. 7 days banquet, 7 eunuchs, 7 wise men, 7 female attendants. Is God trying to say something to us? 6 is referred to as the number of man, and 666 as the number of beast. 7 is the number of God, specifically to the completion or perfection. 7 days in a week. Joshua chapter 6 speaks about 7 priests with 7 trumpets marching around Jericho 7 times on the 7th day. This was a day of divine victory for Israelites. Revelation chapter 8 speaks about 7 seals, 7 angels with 7 trumpets, bringing divine judgment upon the wicked. America is God saying that there will be a divine victory for his children and divine judgment for the wicked. Esther is a book in the Bible where God is not mentioned even once. Some scholars say the unknown writer of this book, who was in the Persian court, did not want the document to be destroyed by the Persian government by mentioning a non-Persian god. God has a way of displaying his role even through numbers. By 7777, is God trying to say to the 4 corners of the earth, the east, the west, the north, and the south, that he is the one who is running the show? Only the stupidest people try to cancel Jehovah. Unfortunately, there are many such in the US. Esther's nationality was kept hidden from others in the palace, and she was taken to the king in the 7th year of his reign. And the king was attracted to Esther more than to any other woman, and he made her queen. Mordecai uncovers a conspiracy. Through Esther, Mordecai revealed to the king a secret attempt to assassinate the king by Bigthana and Teresh, two of the king's officers who guarded the doorway. The investigation report, not like corrupt FBI report, found that to be true, and the two of them were impaled on the poles, and it was recorded in the book of annals in the presence of the king. Later, the king honored and elevated a man named Haman to a position higher than all the nobles, like a prime minister. All the royal officials knelt down and paid honor to Haman as commanded by the king, but Mordecai refused to kneel or pay him honor because of Haman's hatred for the Jews. Haman was enraged at Mordecai and looked for a way to destroy all the Jews in the Persian kingdom. In the 12th year of the king, he cast a lot, also called Pur, in the first month to select a day and month to kill all the Jews, and it fell on the 13th of Adar, that is the 12th month. 12 refers to number of Israelite tribes, number of apostles, the number of God's government. 13 refers to rebellion. The festival of Purim got its name from the word Pur, or Lot, which God turned around in favor for his children and destroyed those who tried to kill the Jews. Haman conspired against the Jews to the king and said that there's a group of people in your kingdom who keep themselves separate. This is what makes Satan crazy even today, a remnant who loves and honors God. Have different customs from the rest of the people who live in all kinds of idolatry, abortion, immorality, and violence. They do not obey the king's laws, and it is better not to tolerate them. He also promised the king 10,000 talents of silver for the royal treasury if the king issues a decree to destroy them. It's a huge amount. 1 talent is equal to 33 kilograms of silver. He intended to plunder the wealth of the entire Jewish community and offer it to the king. The king refused the money but took his signet ring and gave it to Haman and allowed him to do to the Jews as he pleased. So Haman, with the help of the royal secretaries, drafted orders and letters in different languages, sealed them with the signet ring, and dispatched them to all 127 provinces. The order was to destroy, kill, and annihilate all the Jews, young, old, women, and children on the 13th of Adar. A law was issued in every province to the people of all nationality. There is a Haman doing exactly this in the US. When Mordecai heard this, he tore his clothes, put on sackcloth and ashes, rushed to the city gates, wailing loudly and bitterly. This happened on January 20th at the Washington, D.C. gate. You can watch it on YouTube. In every province, people lay in sackcloth and ashes, fasting, weeping, and wailing. When Esther was informed about Mordecai, she was in great distress. Hathach, one of the king's eunuchs, assigned to attend to Esther, met Mordecai with clothes, but he rejected and instructed Esther to go into the king's presence and plead with him for mercy to save her people. According to custom, any man or woman who approaches the king without permission were put to death, unless the king extends his golden scepter and spare their lives. It was 30 days since Esther was called to the king's palace. When Esther's words were reported to Mordecai, he sent back this answer: "Do not think because you are in the king's house, you alone of all the Jews will escape. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place, but you and your father's family will perish." Who knows, you have come to your royal position for such a time as this. Then Esther sent this reply to Mordecai: "Go, gather together all the Jews who are in Susa and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. I and my attendants will fast as you do. When this is done, I will go to the king, even though it is against the law, and if I perish, I perish." Every American who loves his country must read the book of Esther and take part in the battle for your very life with guidance from God. Do not deceive yourself, imagining somehow you will escape. Notice that even the female attendants who were not Jews fasted with her because they loved Esther and therefore her people. God's favor was on Esther. The king extended his scepter to her, and she invited Haman and the king for banquet. Haman returned after the first banquet, boasted to his wife and friends about his wealth, position, and favor with both king and the queen. But he was mad at Mordecai, like many in the US. They suggested that he set up a 50 cubits long pole to impale Mordecai in the morning and then go and enjoy the queen's banquet on the second day. So he had the pole set up. The unseen hand of God. That night the king could not sleep, and so he ordered the book of the annals with a record of his reign to be read to him. For the king of the greatest empire in those days, there must be 100 solutions for sleep issues, different kinds of warm drinks with even emerald and diamond crushed in it if needed, natural medicine to slow down the metabolic activity, massage, and so many things. Out of all 365 days, why that night itself? Because the greatest king, Jesus, knew what was coming next morning for his beloved Mordecai. Out of all the pages in the book, the record of what Mordecai had done to expose Bigthana and Teresh, who tried to assassinate the king, was read out to him. I don't call all this a chance. The king was told by his attendants that no honor and recognition was given to Mordecai for this faithful act. The king decided in his heart to honor Mordecai for saving his life and called out to the person in the court. At that very moment, Haman entered the king's court, and the king asked Haman as to what should be done to the man whom the king delights to honor. Haman, thinking that the king wanted to honor him, suggested that the person be robed with the royal robe the king has worn, be seated on a horse with royal crest on its head, and be paraded by one of the king's most noble princes through the city gates, proclaiming before him, "This is what is done for the man the king delights to honor." The king commanded Haman, "Go at once and do exactly as you said to Mordecai, the Jew who sits at the city gate." I just had a cardiac arrest. Imagine yourself in the place of Haman. He was telling the king his greatest dream and desire, and God just gave it to his enemy and wanted him to parade Mordecai through the streets of Susa. If cyanide poison was available, Haman would have gobbled it. But God did not permit it because God had just begun the race. America, you say it's all over, but he's just warming up. Are you ready to take part? After this event, Haman rushed home in shame and received a prophecy from his wife and friends. This is what they said. "Since Mordecai, before whom your downfall has started, is of Jewish origin, you cannot stand against him. You will surely come to ruin." The king had no clue of the things that were happening behind the scenes. The king's eunuchs came and hurried Haman away to attend the queen's banquet on the second day. While serving wine, Esther cleverly revealed before the king Haman's evil plot to kill Esther and all her people, the Jews. The king gets enraged and goes out to the palace garden, but things get worse when he comes back as he finds Haman falling on Esther's couch. Haman frantically was trying to plead with the queen to save him, but the king misunderstood it as an attempt to molest the queen in his house. I love this verse in chapter 7. The king exclaimed, "Will he even molest the queen while she is with me in the house?" As soon as the word left the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face. It is great to be a king at times, Then Harbona, one of the eunuchs, said, "A pole reaching a height of 50 cubits stands by Haman's house." He had it set up for Mordecai, who spoke up to help the king. The king said, "Impale him on it," and that was done. Then his fury subsided. In the 7th year of King's reign, Esther was appointed the queen, which is a victory for God's children. Now, in chapter 7 of Esther, Haman is impaled on the pole he set up for Mordecai, a divine judgment. God used 7 for both. I want to draw your attention to few people sometimes overlooked. One is Memucan, one of the 7 wise men who proposed to appoint a new queen, which paved the way for Esther. Hegai, the eunuch in charge of the women, who immediately started the beauty treatment for Esther, gave her the best place in the harem and gave advice as to what to take to the king's palace. Hathach, one of the eunuchs, assigned for the queen, who faithfully conveyed messages and materials from Mordecai to Esther and back. 7 female attendants who fasted for Esther and her people. Harbona, one of the king's 7 eunuchs, who not only informed the king about the pole Haman set up and spoke in favor of Mordecai. He puts his own life at risk from Haman's family. Can you see the hand of God in all this? America, every one of you has to take part in God's plan. Don't have to be a queen or lawyer for that. Where are the 80 million people who voted red? Are you saying it is impossible for you to develop social media platforms like YouTube and Facebook? You gather people with similar interest and do the best of what you can. Why do you want Trump to come up with media ministry? He is only one man with one heart and one brain. Why is it that you are not contesting for local elections and positions? It is our responsibility to raise our children in the fear and love of the Lord. Now they have been taken away by the devil. It didn't happen in one day. There is no crown without cross. Don't expect evil politicians to provide for you. They steal, kill, and destroy like their father, the devil, and make us a lifelong slave. It hurts me to say, America, that you slept for too long, around 50 years, and allowed the Middle East, China, and others to take over your nation, while you thought about yourself, did not take time to read His Word, which should have warned you. We should have preached the gospel to others and transformed them over the years, rather than the other way round. I heard that only 3% Americans read the Bible. It is painful. We are living in perilous times, and without being rooted in His Word and His Spirit, we will not be able to overcome. Rise up, take your stand with God, and do all that you can to save your nation. It is never late for God if we approach Him with a broken spirit and contrite heart. Please read the book of Esther to know how God overturned the tables on the 13th of Adar in favor of the Jews, and 75,810 people, including the 10 sons of Haman impaled on the poles, who came to fight against the Jews, were killed on the 13th and 14th of Adar in Susa, and on the 13th of Adar in all other provinces. The 14th and 15th of Adar is celebrated every year as day of feasting, joy, and giving gifts to the poor, which is celebrated as the Purim. Let us not take life and freedom for granted, but seek His face. Mordecai rose in position to become the second in rank to King Xerxes, like a prime minister. Chapter 9 says, and many people of other nationalities became Jews because fear of the Jews had seized them. I think it was fear of the God of the Jews that made them convert. If we do our job well, many people will be added to God's side from Satan's kingdom. I'd like to thank the Free Bible Images for the illustrations.